Welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I am Barry Kumo Ado. The remains of late former President Muhammadu Buhari laid to rest in Daura, Katsina State. Governor Wilfred reshuffles cabinet, redeploys Information Commissioner others. Mexican president criticizes U.S. duties on tomatoes. And NATO chief says Brazil, China and India could be slammed by sanctions. Details shortly.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
The remains of former Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has been laid to rest in his hometown Daura, Katsina State. The burial was conducted in accordance with Islamic rites in Daura. The country's armed forces were on ground to accord full military honors to Buhari, deserving of a former president and commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. It was a sober moment as the lifeless body of Buhari was brought out of a casket and draped in sparkling green, white, green flag. Remains were lowered to Mother Earth at exactly 5:50 p.m. in the presence of grieving children, family members, and associates. President Bola Tinubu led a federal delegation to Katsina and received the remains of the former president at Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport. The body, accompanied by Vice President Kashim Shettima and family members, arrived from London aboard a presidential aircraft. A brief military ceremony was held at the airport, attended by dignitaries such as Guinea-Bissau President Umaru Sissoco Embalo, former Niger President Mahamadou Issoufou, and former Vice President to Buhari, Yemi Osibanjo. Other dignitaries include former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former President of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, former military head of state, Abdul Salami Abubakar, 7 and past governors, among others. King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud of Saudi Arabia has extended heartfelt condolences to President Bola Tinubu and the people of Nigeria on the passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari. The custodian of a 2 holy mosque in a statement mourned the loss of an elder statesman, expressing sympathy to President Tinubu, the Nigerian people, and Buhari's family. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Abdulaziz Al Saud also sent a message of condolence to the Nigerian government and prayed for the peaceful rest of his soul in Al Jannah Firdaus. The continuous voter registration and revalidation exercise being conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) in Anambra State is witnessing more attendance by citizens. The exercise, now in its 7th day, is taking place in the 326 electoral wards in the state. Correspondent Precious Chiagoro has the report.
The continuous voter registration exercise, which is built to last between the 8th and 17th of July, is in preparation for the November 8th off-season governorship elections in Anambra State. The exercise is happening simultaneously in the 326 electoral wards in Anambra State to update the register with the names of those who recently reached the adult suffrage of 18 years, those who relocated to new areas, or people that lost their voter's card. At the demonstration school, Commissioner's Quarters, Ifitoka, the exercise was going on smoothly under a calm atmosphere, with mostly young people turning up to register for the first time. Though the INEC ad hoc staff conducting the exercise in the area refused to speak on camera, the registrants were visibly happy. Commenting on the good turnout, the Managing Director of Anambra Civic and Social Reformation Office, Chuka Nnabuefe, said his office has been in contact with the INEC in sensitizing the people.
I expect INEC not to joke with this process. And I expect officials of INEC to know the onus on them, the responsibility on their shoulder. The people of Anambra deserve an active INEC, a very, very alert INEC. They deserve INEC to be seen to be performing in their high gear as regards these Anambra 2025 election, the gubernatorial election that comes up on November 8th.
At the community primary school Amobia, a relatively large crowd was gathered and patiently waiting for their turn. They complained of malfunctioning of the data capturing machine, which had made many people to go home. A stakeholder in the area, Isi Nwokoye, called for extension of the exercise beyond July 17, as well as expanding the daily registration period beyond 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's not encouraging because since morning they've not done much. The machine has been having technical issue. I have to go use my car and bring the technical person to help him. They've been struggling to get it done and it's not working. But now he's trying to resolve the issue. Okay. The temperature is not captured. People have come here, there was crowd here in the morning. But you know they wait, it's not working. They go to their business and come back. And the time range is not convenient. How can you say you start from 9 to 3? And 3 is when people come back to work. Okay. So the people that have been here, few have not been. 17 is just 3 days. And can people, the rate of who want to transfer, and the people that is 17 that want to move to that is already 18. They are work. So that this time range is not enough. I'm advocating for more time, please. Even complete with yourself to go to.
Reports from other parts of the state also speak of large turnout, except in parts of some local government areas where insecurity is still holding sway. Precious Chagoro, reporting for Signature TV.
The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) is to commence nationwide continuous voter registration exercise as part of preparation for the 2027 general election. The INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner (REC) for Benue State, Professor Sam Egu, who made this known in Makurdi, said the exercise will commence from August 18, 2025. Egu explained that the CVR exercise is in line with the constitutional provision to accommodate those who had attained 18 years after the previous election will take place in the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, starting with the online pre-registration will be done through the INEC website. He said that the online registration will be followed by the in-person registration in all INEC area offices nationwide and other designated centers starting from August 25, 2025, between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. each day from Monday to Friday. The exercise, he said, would also address issues of those whose cards were damaged, lost, or those who need correction on the card or deliberate change or inclusion of any other parameters, or seeking intra- and interstate transfer or from one ward to another, one polling unit to another. The sole administrator of River State, retired Vice Admiral Ibok Ite-Bas, has inaugurated the newly reconstituted boards of key commissions in the state, including the River State Independent Electoral Commission, RISIEC. Performing the ceremony in Port Harcourt, Admiral Libas charged the newly appointed board members to uphold the highest standards of discipline, competence, integrity, and unwavering dedication in their service to the state. He emphasized that such commitment is critical to stabilizing governance, restoring democratic institutions, and advancing the principles of good governance in River State. The administrator reminded members of the RIVSIEC of their pivotal role in ensuring credible local government elections that will reflect the will of the people, warning that they must resist bias, favoritism, and external interference while restoring public confidence in the electoral process.
You have been entrusted with a sacred duty to uphold the will of the people and to midwife and safeguard the democratic process in River State. The task before you is clear but demanding. You have to conduct free, fair, credible, and transparent elections at the local government level. I therefore charge you to carry out your duties with independence of mind and action, never yielding to undue pressure, fairness and impartiality, treating all political actors with equal respect and accountability, and also to exhibit professionalism and courage, even in the face of difficult choices.
The asked the members of the Civil Service Commission to work towards eliminating mediocrity and to foster a culture of excellence through merit-based recruitment, training, and promotions. It disclosed that extensive training programs are underway, with a committee set up to overhaul the public service framework for greater efficiency.
This commission plays a strategic role in discipline, training, recruiting, promoting, and the general welfare of the workforce that drives all sectors of government. It must, therefore, carry out these responsibilities with the ideals of merit, fairness, transparency, and equity. You have the unique responsibility to shape the future of the civil service, not just through hiring and promotions, but by building a culture of excellence and patriotism. Days of mediocrity and favoritism must give way to competence, integrity, and accountability.
Other commissions whose members were inaugurated include the River State Local Government Service Commission and the River State Primary Healthcare Management Board, who were earlier screened by the National Assembly as a result of emergency rule in the state. The People's Democratic Party (PDP) has confirmed the successful screening of Awado Issa Manzo as its candidate for the upcoming Garki Babura House of Representatives by-election in Jigawa State. The Benin National Electoral Commission (INEC) had earlier announced August 16, 2025 as a date for the Garki Babura Federal Constituency by-election, following the death of Isa Dongo Yaro, who passed away on May 10, 2024 at the age of 46. Speaking after the screening, Secretary of the PDP Screening Committee from the party's national headquarters in Abuja, Precious Ben, confirmed that the party had successfully screened its candidate for the forthcoming by-election in a Garki Babura constituency. She explained that a 5-member committee was set up by the PDP to visit Jigawa State and conduct the screening process, ensuring the candidate's eligibility to contest under the party's platform. Addressing journalists after the screening, PDP candidate Awado Issa Manzo stated that he voluntarily retired from civil service in order to run for office and bring meaningful change to his constituency. He expressed confidence that the people of Garki Babura will support him and vote in his favor during the upcoming election. Meanwhile, the All Progressives Congress (APC) and the New Nigeria People's Party (NNPP) have also fielded their candidates for the election. Several opposition political parties in Lagos State have called for the outright cancellation of Saturday's local government elections, describing the exercise as undemocratic and a clear case of daylight robbery. The parties, including Labour Party (LP), Young Progressives Party (YPP), African Action Congress (AAC), Action People's Party (APP), and Accord Party (AP), made a demand during a joint press conference held in Lagos on Tuesday. Leaders of various political parties alleged that the election conducted by the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission last year was marred by widespread irregularities and disenfranchised many opposition candidates. Speaking to journalists, LP State Chairperson Dayo Ekong condemned what she described as orchestrated electoral fraud and brazen bias at the council elections. Ekong's statement, delivered by Deputy Olasukwa Ajayi, described the entire process as a state-sponsored assault on democracy. She criticized the absence of essential voting materials such as ballot papers, result sheets, and ballot boxes in many local government areas. Similarly, Olusegun Mobolaji of the YPP described the lead-up to the election as deeply flawed, claiming that over 100 candidates from various parties were disenfranchised due to last year's inflexibility. Mobolaji, the immediate past chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council (IPAC) in Lagos, said that the logos of several parties, including the YPP, APP, and LP, were omitted from the ballot papers in some local governments. He further alleged that elections were characterized by ballot box snatching, secret relocation of polling units, illegal coalition of results, and other violations of electoral law. According to him, All appeal letters submitted to LASEC, the Governor, the State House of Assembly, Commissioner of Police and the Department of State Services were ignored. Still to come, NAPTIP flags up nationwide training on human trafficking data collection. Tinubu orders agencies to address concerns behind new US-UAE visa restrictions. Stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, has launched a nationwide step-down training on a revised data collection for the implementation of Nigeria's National Action Plan on Human Trafficking. Declaring the workshop open on Tuesday in Enugu, Director General of NAPTIP, Binta Bello, stated that the training marked a critical milestone in the country's ongoing efforts to enhance data-driven responses to human trafficking. Bello was represented by the Southeast Zonal Commander of the agency, Jonathan Ukbak, said the workshop was the culmination of implementation of a national action plan against human trafficking in Nigeria. The Enugu State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Kingsley Ude, who commended NAPTIP for its numerous efforts in curbing human trafficking, pledged the state government's commitment and assistance to ensure that the agency receives all the necessary support to ease its work. Country representative of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Sheikh Toure, commended the enthusiasm and commitment of stakeholders working at the front line of Nigeria's anti-trafficking response. The President and Chief Executive Officer of Signature TV, Vin Martin Obiorilo, has enjoined the alumni of various academic institutions in the country never to abandon their alma mater or old school mates. Ilo made a remark when he hosted the executive and members of the Old Boys Association, St. Vincent Secondary School, Agbogu, in Ogu local government area of Enugu State, who visited the corporate headquarters of Signature TV, Thinkers Corner, Enugu. Correspondent Christopher Lele was there.
In a show of solidarity, nostalgia, and goodwill, a high-powered delegation of the Old Boys Association of St. Vincent Secondary School, Agbogugu, in Ogu local government area of Enugu State, visited one of their own, Vin Martin Obiora Ilo, President and Chief Executive Officer of Signature TV. The visit took place at the Raymond Dupesi headquarters of the broadcast outfit on Alo Street, Thinkers Corner, Enugu. The delegation, which was led by the president of the association, Sebastian Okafor, a veteran journalist and lawyer, said the visit was a fraternal call to celebrate one of their own who has risen to a position of prominence in public and private life by dint of hard work.
So on behalf of the Old Boys Association of St. Vincent Secondary School, Abu, of which, by the grace of God, the arrowhead, courtesy of them. I want to say, Martin, we're proud of you once more. And it's our prayer that Signature TV goes beyond this place. It grows beyond boundaries.
And as a reenactment of the old school days, which recognized seniority, the oldest student in the midst was given the floor.
It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. Very soon we celebrate something higher. It's not easy to be an employer in Nigeria but one month is time. Anybody who can employ just one person is a very great person, and I respect the person. I know you are going to. I don't know the number you have here, but it will go in multiples because you are born to help manage.
Of course, the youngest in their midst also spoke on the purpose of their visit.
My business name is Gemantis. Incidentally, I'm the youngest, the most junior. That's the word you use. The most junior of the old boy that is here presently for the courtesy visit.
The visit was deeply symbolic to President and CEO of Signature TV, Vin Martin Obiora Ilo, who did not take the visit for granted. Ilo stated that members of alumni associations should not only look out for their former peers and colleagues and lift them up where necessary, but also ensure they contribute in uplifting their alma mater.
I mean, if I'm in this position and any one of our old boys has need for me or assistance, I should be able to give it. Ditto for all of us. Yeah. You know, our old boys, we can't say, oh, because the school is no longer what it used to be, nothing is holding us together. The times we spend, the memories are holding us together. Exactly. So we should be our brother's keeper. And that's why it hurts me when some of our colleagues had opportunity and positions to advance the cause of our old boys, and they didn't quite do it as we expected.
The meeting ended on a warm note with group photographs and the exchange of fraternal pleasantries. The event also featured a tour of the Signature TV station and some refreshments, during which members of the delegation and the chairman shared stories of their school days. The visit marks another reminder of the enduring bonds of old school networks and the role such associations can play in promoting friendships and community development. Christopher Lele reporting for Signature TV.
President Bola Tinubu has directed relevant federal agencies to take all necessary actions to address the issues identified by the governments of the United States and the United Arab Emirates in the recent changes to visa issuance policies affecting Nigerian citizens. The directive is contained in a statement issued by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, in Abuja on Tuesday. President Tinubu said that all concerned ministries, departments and agencies should work collaboratively and ensure full compliance with Nigeria's international obligations. The federal government, however, stated that it had not received any formal notification from Abu Dhabi indicating a change in visa policy by the United Arab Emirates, but acknowledged that visa issuance was proceeding in a gradual but orderly manner. A statement reaffirmed the federal government's unwavering commitment to maintaining and strengthening the long-standing and cordial diplomatic relations with both countries. The United States government formally notified Nigeria that its decision to review visa privileges for Nigerian passport holders was informed by the growing incidence of visa overstays by Nigerian nationals and challenges in obtaining reliable access to applicants' records. Washington further explained that adjustments are part of its global visa reciprocity framework, which is routinely reviewed and subject to policy revisions, including entry limits and validity periods. Ebonyi State Governor Francis Nwifuru has announced a minor cabinet reshuffle involving 4 commissioners, issuing a firm warning for improved performance in line with the administration's People Charter of Needs Manifesto. The reshuffle was made public on Tuesday by newly appointed Commissioner for Information and State Orientation, Ikowa Omebe, during a press briefing following Monday's State Executive Council meeting held in Abakaliki. A strong directive, Governor Nwifuru gave a 3-month grace period to the Commissioner for Environment, Victor Chukwu, and the Commissioner for Tertiary Education, Professor Amari Omaka, cautioning that failure to show significant improvement within the time frame will result in their dismissal from office. As part of broader efforts to industrialize the state, the Executive Council approved the supply and installation of independent captive power generation plants. The facilities are expected to deliver 24-hour metered electricity to select public and private industries. The project will begin with a 3-megawatt plant at ICT University of Irekpe, Abaja. Additionally, the Council ratified the establishment of a 15-member Ebonyi State Economic Advisory Committee. The committee will be chaired by Professor Bath Naji, with Dr. Ben Odo appointed as secretary. Governor Nwifuru called on all political appointees to reflect on the current performance and renew their commitment to the administration's goals, emphasizing service delivery and the welfare of the people. At least 20 people were on Monday night killed by gunmen suspected to be Fulani militias who invaded the Bindi community in Taos district of Riom local government area of Plateau State, while an unspecified number were injured as residents fled the community to safety. A statement by the Coalition for the Protection of Democracy, them, said the assailants stormed the village where the people had retired for the night and carried out a house-to-house attack, killing innocent people, including women, children, and the aged who could not escape. Coalition statement said the attackers, who were identified by survivors as Fulani extremists, were heavily armed with sophisticated weapons, made it clear that their mission was to exterminate the people and take over their land. The group called on President Bola Tinubu, the Plateau State government, and security agencies to order a high-level intervention and military operation to dismantle the known terrorist enclaves, as well as declare a state of emergency in the affected areas, as well as provide direct humanitarian relief, community rebuilding efforts, and trauma support. In Nasarawa State, suspected gunmen have adopted the permanent secretary of the State Ministry of Information, Tourism and Culture, Yusuf Musa, from his residence in the Shinge area of Lafia, the state capital. Nasarawa State Police Command, which confirmed the incident in a statement on Tuesday, said the matter has been treated as suspected kidnapping and that a statewide manhunt has been launched to track the abductors and rescue the victim. Command Public Relations Officer Rahman Nansel said the incident was discovered by officers on patrol. Nansel added that a search of the premises confirmed that the permanent secretary was missing, along with his GMC vehicle bearing registration number KUJ88PA. Police urged the public to remain calm and assist with useful information. The Securities and Exchange Commission has announced plans to launch an investigation into the activities of an entity operating under the name FF Tiffany, which is allegedly running a fraudulent investment scheme that has defrauded members of the public. A statement released on Tuesday in Abuja, the SEC, said preliminary findings suggest that the scheme offering investors unusually high and unrealistic returns has led to the loss of several billions of naira. The Commission described the operation as a significant threat to investor confidence and overall integrity of the nation's financial system. It assured the public that it's working closely with law enforcement agencies and other relevant authorities to ensure that everyone involved in the legal operation is brought to justice. The SEC also reiterated its earlier warnings to the public to steer clear of Ponzi schemes or unregistered investment platforms that promised guaranteed or exaggerated returns. According to the Commission, it is currently investigating 79 such schemes and will issue a formal statement upon the conclusion of its investigations. Investors are urged to carry out proper due diligence and verify the registration status of any investment firm or product by visiting the SEC's official website or reaching out to the Commission through its verified communication channels. Coming up is business news.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has signed 4 major tax reform bills into law, marking a significant shift in Nigeria's tax landscape. The Federal Inland Revenue Service is now the Nigerian Revenue Service and will collect revenues from agencies like Customs and NPA. Low-income earners earning 800,000 or less annually are now tax exempt, while small business owners won't pay income tax. A new development levy and strict requirement for tax ID and income declaration, including for side hustles and crypto, are also introduced. The changes aim to ease burdens for the poor, broaden the tax net, and boost transparency. Nigeria is seeking a 25% increase in its crude oil production quota by 2027, aiming to raise output from 1.5 million to 2 million barrels per day. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, led by CEO Bashir Ojulari, says improved infrastructure and rising local refining capacity boosted by the Dangote refinery and modular plant, justify the push. Current total output stands at around 1.65 million barrels daily, with OPEC reviewing members' production limits. Nigerian hopes its improved capacity will support its case for a higher quota. Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, is pushing forward with plans to build Nigeria's biggest and deepest seaport in Olokola, Ogun State. He confirmed to Bloomberg that paperwork was submitted in June, marking a major expansion of its industrial empire into maritime logistics. The port will support export of fertilizer, petrochemicals, and gas, and ease import of equipment. It's located 100 km from its Lekki refinery and aims to rival existing ports, including the Lekki D seaports. Dangote also plans to export gas via new pipelines from the Niger Delta and launch fuel distribution with 4,000 gas-powered trucks. Hero Contractor CEO Captain Ado Sanusi has called on the federal government to scrap the controversial $300 helicopter landing fee imposed on oil and gas shuttle operators. The fee, introduced under the Buhari administration and backed by NAMA, is now directed at oil companies, but both operators and firm have pushed back. Sanusi insists the private firm collecting the levy, Navy Dynamic Concept, offers no infrastructure or service to justify the charge, calling it a violation of IQA rules and an attempt to extort. He warns such unregulated levies could open the door to arbitrary charges in the future. The Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has issued a public warning against Firstman and Boarding Force Limited, stating the company is not registered to operate in Nigeria's capital market or solicit funds. According to the SEC, the firm, forcefully claiming affiliation with a Swedish company, is promoting a fraudulent scheme on social media, luring Nigerians with fake jobs offers in exchange for money. Preliminary findings suggest it operates like a Ponzi scheme. The SEC urges the public to avoid all dealings with the company and verify investment offers via its website to avoid falling victims. In Abuja, I am Nasiru Usman, reporting for Business News.
Still to come, Germany's Water Poll says he's confident EU would adopt new Russia sanctions soon. Israeli protesters call for end to Gaza war after Tel Aviv event attended by Netanyahu.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said on Tuesday that she disagreed with the U.S. government's decision to impose a duty of about 17% on Mexican tomato imports. Speaking at a regular morning news conference, Sheinbaum also said she hoped to announce measures next week in conjunction with tomato producers related to Washington's announcement that will begin charging a duty of about 17% on imports of fresh tomatoes from Mexico. Mexican president also said Mexico will take action if an agreement with Washington regarding new tariffs is not reached by the August 1 deadline set by U.S. counterpart Donald Trump.
First, we disagree. Second, Mexican tomatoes will continue to be exported regardless. Third, I hope that next week we will be able to announce a series of actions that we will be taking with all the associations and all the tomato producers. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but within the framework of Plan Mexico, we are going to give tomato producers in our country different options and continue fighting in the United States.
Brazil's Vice President Geraldo Alckmin announced on Tuesday that the country will seek to reverse the 50% tariff imposed by the United States on Brazilian goods as swiftly as possible. In a press conference after a meeting in Brasilia, With representatives of key industries, Ackerman indicated that Brazil might seek an extension to the negotiation deadline, describing the current timeline as tight. The tariffs set to take effect on August 1 have prompted urgent discussions between Brazilian officials and industry leaders. According to Ackerman, the tariffs are not only unfair to Brazil, but also detrimental to the United States.
And what we heard here is negotiation. In other words, a commitment to reviewing matters that align with the proposal of the Brazilian government and President Lula. It was also pointed out that the time frame is tight, that it's a short deadline, and that we should perhaps work to extend it. We will make every effort to reverse these tariffs that are very unfair to Brazil, but also harmful to the United States. The discussion focused on the United States and Brazil, and we will be receiving more proposals from various sectors. Then, in a more sector-specific manner, we will move forward with proposals and suggestions. The meetings are ongoing, and we will also speed up conversations with North American business leaders. Obviously, this requires more intensive diplomatic efforts, not only from business leaders who engage in a kind of corporate diplomacy, but above all from the Brazilian government, which will, of course, seek at all times to find a negotiated solution without failing to adopt reciprocal measures.
The ongoing negotiations involve multiple sectors, including aircraft, steel, and automotive industries, with Brazilian officials also planning to accelerate talks with American business leaders. Roberto Perosa, president of the Brazilian beef lobby, ABEC, said on Tuesday that Brazilian meat packers, a key sector for the national economy, are considering whether to make new shipments of beef products to the United States. German's Milton, the fabric of small and medium-sized companies in the country, says itself threatened by US President Donald Trump's announced 30% tariff on imports from the EU starting August 1. European officials say this level of tariff is unacceptable and would end normal trade between two of the world's largest markets, Germany and the US. The manager of the German Mittelstand, Malt Weber, said on Tuesday. Weber said the impact of a 30% tariff will be massive on its medium-sized manufacturer, Wiwa.
As an export-orientated company, we are of course also very dependent on the North American markets. We are monitoring the situation there very closely and have to see which of the threats that are currently being made will actually materialize afterwards, which tariffs will remain after the negotiations, and how this will affect our business. If the US tariffs were to actually be implemented to the extent that has been threatened, this would of course have a massive impact on our American business. It would completely change our position on the American market, and we would have to see how we could react to this situation. The European Union is currently in a position of dialogue and is trying to negotiate on an equal footing and as cooperatively as possible. I think that a position of strength and actively asserting our own interests would certainly help us in the future.
Located in the central German town of Lanau, north of Frankfurt, Weber is family-owned and was founded in 1950. It makes painting, coating technologies, and pneumatic and hydraulic pumps products. It advertises as almost 100% made in Germany. However, Weber's cautious attitude about the veracity of the tariffs seems to reflect a larger trend. European firms called on trade negotiators to redouble efforts to strike a deal with Washington, though firms were avoiding panic, holding out hope that Trump would back off his threats, as he has in recent months. The European Commission is targeting 72 billion euros worth of US goods from Boeing aircraft and bourbon whiskey to cars for possible tariffs if trade talks with Washington fail. German Foreign Minister Johannes Wadephol said on Tuesday that he believed the European Union was close to adopting a new sanction package against Russia. Wadephol said during a joint press conference with Slovenian Foreign Minister Tanjin Fajon in Berlin that the package will be combined with possible new sanctions from the United States. The EU on Tuesday failed to approve new sanctions. Slovakia has been blocking the EU's latest sanctions package until its concerns are addressed over a separate EU proposal to phase out imports of Russian gas by January 2028.
I am confident that this package will now be adopted in the short term. We are in the final stage of negotiations at the European Union level, and it is also necessary that we now reach a result. And there will then be a combination with the possible sanctions from the United States of America, which the American president has now announced. The importance of our cohesion is demonstrated not only in the area of security, but also in the trade talks with the USA. It is good that the European Union
We have common ground on Ukraine. We are very connected there. The unity of the European Union is key here. An unconditional ceasefire is the first step leading to negotiations for peace. A lasting and just peace for the Ukrainian people. And we see that the aggression continues, the destruction of infrastructure, civilian targets, victims in the civilian population. And we are united here to support Ukraine. And that is really a crucial role that we play here.
A data leak by British authorities containing thousands of Afghans' personal information is extremely serious and put the lives of those affected at risk, a lawyer said on Tuesday after the court lifted reporting restrictions on the breach, which occurred in 2022. Concerns that individuals' names could be targeted by the Taliban led the previous conservative government to set up the relocation scheme, involving thousands of people and estimated to cost the government about £2 billion. A leak by the Ministry of Defense in early 2022, which saw data published on Facebook the following year, and the secret relocation program was subject to a so-called super injunction, preventing the media reporting what happened, which was lifted on Tuesday. Incident ranks among the worst security breaches in modern British history because of the constant risks posed to the lives of thousands of Afghans, some of whom fought alongside British forces until their chaotic withdrawal in 2021. Sean Humber of the law firm Layday, who was already acting for Afghans affected by the breach, said the Ministry of Defense appeared to be institutionally incapable of keeping data safe, said the government's current position that the breach no longer puts people at risk was surprising, citing media reports of a threat towards those that assisted U.S. forces and their allies before the Taliban took power in 2021. Defense Minister John Haley said about 4,500 Afghans and their family members have been relocated or are on their way to Britain under the previously secret scheme at a cost of around £400 million.
I find the government's current position somewhat surprising. They initially rushed to court to obtain an injunction, then a super injunction, to prevent the disclosure of this information by the media, precisely because of the risk that it posed to those affected. Now, somewhat curiously, some may consider, they're saying, well, there isn't a risk. Well, there are many credible media reports of those that have been persecuted by the Taliban in Afghanistan because of the help they provided to international forces, including UK, Australian and US forces. The Ministry of Defence seem, I think, institutionally incapable of keeping information safe. And so I think the issue that we need to look at is a thorough review of the government's practices and policies to ensure that something like this never happens again. They do seem very laissez-faire with other people's very sensitive persons.
Special Forces personnel from Panama and the United States began military training exercises aimed at defending the intra-oceanic canal and other strategic infrastructure in the Central American nation. The drills involve air, land and maritime operations as part of the first phase of our annual Panamax Alpha 2025 exercise, according to Panamanian authorities. The training brings together special agents from Panama's police forces alongside troops from the U.S. Southern Command's Joint Task Force Bravo. The initiative phase focuses on training and preparing Panamanian agents for Phase 2 of the Panamax exercise, which involve actual execution of operations scheduled for September. Current exercises follow similar U.S. military drills conducted in Panama last month to protect the inter-oceanic waterway, part of a bilateral agreement signed in April between the two countries. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte warned on Tuesday that countries such as Brazil, China and India could be hit very hard by secondary sanctions if they continue to do business with Russia.
if you are the president of China, or the prime minister of India, or the president of Brazil, and you are still trading with the Russians and getting the oil and the gas in, and you sometimes even resell it for a higher price, know that if this guy in Moscow doesn't get serious about peace talks, I will slam secondary sanctions on you of 100%. So I'm sure they don't know yet what hit them. This will take some time to sink in, and I think you guys making this clear in the media, the senators maybe also discussing this with their counterparts in Brazil, India, China, will be very helpful to put maximum pressure on Russia in addition to the weapons delivery.
Also made a comment while meeting with senators in the U.S. Congress today after President Donald Trump announced new weapons for Ukraine and threatened secondary tariffs of 100% on the buyers of Russian exports unless there is a peace deal in 50 days. During a visit to a military base in the West Bank's Jordan Valley on Tuesday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israeli attacks in Syria were aimed at maintaining the southwestern region of Syria as a demilitarized zone and to protect the Druze residents. In his statement, Netanyahu also described Israeli operations as intense operations.
We are also operating in Syria. We have an obligation to maintain the southwestern region of Syria as a demilitarized zone bordering Israel. We will not allow a return to a situation where a second Lebanon is being established there, and we are also obligated to protect the Druze residents. We are doing this through intense operations. I hope we will not have to operate anymore. It depends very much on what is understood and done, and also what is not done in Damascus.
Israel carried out strikes against Syrian government forces in southwestern Syria for a second day on Tuesday. Syria's foreign ministry said in a statement on Tuesday that Israel holds full responsibility for the latest attacks in southern Syria and the consequences. The ministry said it's keen to protect all Syrian citizens without exception, including the Druze minority. A surge in sectarian violence in the predominantly Druze city of Sweda underlines the challenges facing interim President Ahmed al-Shara, who has struggled to assert control over the area near the Israeli border since toppling Bashar al-Assad in December. Israeli protesters gathered outside the Tel Aviv Expo Convention Center on Tuesday as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu attended an event on local governance, calling for an end to the war in Gaza and the premiership of Netanyahu. Protesters also displayed placards in support of Israeli Attorney General Gali Bavara Miara. Netanyahu's government has for months been seeking the dismissal of Bavara Miara, Attorney General appointed by the previous government, and has spurred with Netanyahu's cabinet over the legality of some of its policies. Israelis have become increasingly wary of the war in Gaza, which began with a surprise attack by Hamas on October 7, 2023, and led to Israel's single deadliest day, with 1,200 killed and 251 taken hostage by the Palestinian militants. Palestinian residents and a local business owner said on Tuesday that Israeli settlers had carried out an attack on a vehicle yard in the West Bank town of Boca. CCTV footage shows a group of people setting fire to vehicles. Yard owner Mohammed As-Saleh, who deals in car parts, said this was not the first time settlers had attacked the town. United Nations Human Rights Office said that there has been an increase in killings and attacks against Palestinians by settlers and security forces in the occupied West Bank in recent weeks. Around 700,000 Israeli settlers live among 2.7 million Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, territories Israel captured from Jordan in the 1967 war. Israel later annexed East Jerusalem, a move not recognized by most countries, but has not formally extended sovereignty over the West Bank. Torrential downpours pummeled the city of Fuji, Shizuoka Prefecture in Japan on Tuesday, following a typhoon that swept through the region. In 24 hours through 11 a.m. on Tuesday, Fuji City recorded 150 millimeters of precipitation, according to the Japan Meteorological Agency. The downpour occurred as Typhoon Nari made landfall in Hokkaido and became a low-pressure system. Last time a tropical storm landed in Hokkaido was in August 2016, according to the NHK. In Indonesian rescuers were searching for 11 people missing after a boat capsized in bad weather off the Mentawai Islands in West Sumatra province, the local search and rescue agency said on Tuesday.
This morning at 7 a.m. on Tuesday, July 15, 2025, our collective SAR team are continuing our search of 11 missing, capsized boat, victims. Up until this report, the 11 victims have not been found. We're narrowing the focus area of the search to the west and east of the accident area using 2 SAR units from Mentawai. One ship will scour the east side and the area of accident while the other ship will go to the west side.
7 people had been rescued after the incident, which happened on Monday at around 11 a.m., the rescue agency said in a statement. Of 18 people on board, 10 were local government officials. The boat had departed Sikapak, a small town in Mentawai Islands, and was heading to another small town, Tuapeja. Boats and ferries are a regular mode of transport in Indonesia, an archipelago of more than 17,000 islands, and accidents are relatively common due to bad weather, as well as lax safety standards that often allow vessels to be overloaded. A ferry sank earlier this month near the island of Bali. Of the 65 people on board, 18 died, 30 survived, and 17 remain missing. Manchester City have extended their kit partnership with Puma on a long-term deal. The club announced on Tuesday with British media report saying the deal is worth around £1 billion, making it the largest in Premier League. The new contract runs for at least another 10 years, worth a record £100 million a year to the club. City previously signed a £65 million per year deal with German kit manufacturer in 2019. The agreement is expected to set a new benchmark for kit manufacturing deals among English clubs, surpassing Manchester United's £900 million 10-year contract with Adidas signed in 2023. City have enjoyed an exceptional run since 2020, winning 4 consecutive Premier League titles and securing the treble in 2022-2023 season. However, they did not win a major trophy last season. City will begin their 2025-2026 Premier League campaign on August 16 with a trip to Wolverhampton Wanderers. And that's the news this hour. I am Barry Kumo Ado. Thank you very much for joining us. And stay with us, as up next is Signature Morning.